one planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Right, hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here on the Intuitive Prospector channel for another Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. How are you guys doing? Thanks for tuning in. Let me know where you're tuning in from around the world. I just made myself a nice vanilla hemp latte with hemp and milk. So it looks like we got a couple people joining in, so good morning to you. I'm going to be giving you some messages for encouragement, for inspiration, for ways of thinking maybe outside the box. And today I'm going to be talking about heart. And the reason I'm going to talk about heart is because I find that the heart is one of the best connectors from the physical world, what this is, the physical flesh suit, to the unseen spiritual world. And a lot of work I do as a spiritualist these days. But what I want you to focus in on is the word heart itself, and within the word heart is the word ear. So if you go H-E-A-R, E-A-R-T, you'll notice that the ear is actually built into the word heart. And I've always been fascinated with that when it comes to sacred geometry, when it comes to quantum mechanics, when it comes to nature. And if you take two ears and you put them together, it actually forms a heart. And it's quite interesting if you think about it. So I'm going to be talking about that this morning. And thanks for joining me here on Metaphysical Mocha Monday. So grab your coffee, grab your tea. Let's move into the magic of the moment. Because that's where all the life is really found, is in the magic of the moment, not in our imagination of the future, not our memories of the past. And let's talk about the heart. If you want to subscribe to the page, please do so. I'd love to have you join the almost 30,000 spiritual prospectors from around the world that follow the page. I'm here every Monday morning, or most Monday mornings, starting at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you stick around, when this show ends at 8:30, this goes and premieres over on my YouTube channel. So if you want to get on my YouTube channel, it's a great way to follow all of the shows, whether it's Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, whether it's my podcast, Inspired Living Radio, which can now be found on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Podbean, Insight Timer. This week we're going to be talking with Miss Penny Haywood, AFC tutor from England, who will be here live here in the studio for a Mastering Your Mediumship interview, and then we're going to be doing a 4-day workshop that's sold out here in Seattle about how to master your mediumship. So I'll put the link in. I've got a few of my team. I know Colleen is traveling today, so Jeanette, if you're on, just let me know. Got a few of the team members that will be helping me in the Healing Cafe, kind of manage some of the conversations, and I try to get to everybody if I can for free readings, for inspiration, for mantras. Okay, Jeanette, thank you for letting me know, and prayers to the lady that you're taking care of. So it might be just me riding solo today, but that's fine. So let's get started. Let's talk about a few things. What I want to talk about first is most people that I know that are successful people are the ones that do more listening than talking. And I've also found from listening comes wisdom, and from speaking, repentance. And when we listen more, that's why we have two ears and one mouth. It does open the heart. It does open up and to connect that heart. And like I said, if you look at the word heart, in the word heart is the word ear. And so I've always found that very interesting when it comes to words that we use and words within words, if you will. I found that that most of the beautiful things that we see in this world can't always be touched. You know, we want to touch things, but sometimes some of the most beautiful experiences are felt through the heart. And that's always made me wonder about, the power of the heart and what makes, it's the motor that makes it go. You know, we've got our temples up here. Why do we call this our temples? We've got the third eye that sits right here, which if you go to the side of the brain, right behind the right ear, there's a little gland that sits deep in the brain called the pineal gland. And these are all connected to source. So, when we breathe in oxygen, metaphysically, we're breathing in energy, we're breathing in life. And when it kind of spools through all of this, the brain, the breath, it makes everything go, the body. I always like to say, breathe in the energy through the pineal gland and exhale out through the heart. And what that does is it creates that symbiotic connection to source. It creates that symbiotic connection to the unseen spirit world, if you believe that. And some of you may not believe that, and that's totally fine. I'll be honest with you. I was a total non-believer. I was brought up with a religious background for sure, but I was not really a pro-religious guy, where I thought I'd actually be moving into more of the spiritual aspects of doing spiritual work. And spirituality is more of following the message versus following the messengers. And that's what I found the difference between religion and spirituality. There's a lot of great religions out there. I just always find that the religion is kind of more crowd control, where spirituality is more of that freedom to explore and to prospect for what it is that you're looking for. And you change through life. You go through traumas and tragedies. Last week I talked about the TNT, which is trauma and tragedy that triggers transformations. So if you want to catch that podcast, you can go over to my YouTube channel, or I'm going to upload it to Insight Timer as well. So that I'm going to try to upload it to Insight Timer if they'll let me. It's video based, so it might not. I'm not sure if they actually do lectures, if they will. But one of the things that I found when I started accessing, metaphysics, when I started accessing spirituality, it's really connecting mind, body, and spirit as a trio. For those of you that were raised religious, you'll know it as the Father, Son, Holy Ghost. And for the spiritual aspect, for me, it was more of the mind, the body, and of course the spirit or the etheric being that you don't see. It's what leaves the body after the heart stops. And when you have a spiritual heart in what I call the metaphysical heart, it really is the wormhole, if you will, to bring in the spirituality of the physical world and the unseen world into your experience, into your soul adventure, into your orbit, if you will. But I've also learned through great traumas and tragedies and family dysfunction and abuse that you have to really, in order to open that gateway to the heart of spirit, it's really knowing thyself. There's many ways to open up the gateway of the heart, but you must do it yourself to have that heart intelligence, if you will. And there's traditional spiritual practices such as meditation, such as prayer. I do qigong in the morning to kind of open up my energy. Yoga is a great form of connecting to heart center, if you will. But it can also be opened through the appreciation of art, through music. For me, it's nature and movies. That's a great way to open my heart to get me to feel. Charlie Chaplin, who I admire greatly, is one of the greatest actors of all time because he was a silent movie actor, but he had the ability to get people to laugh, cry, without saying words. And he always reminded us that humans think too much and we feel too little, especially as guys. For guys out there, if you're a guy's guy like I am, we're not always up into the feeling aspect. We're more of the thinking or fix or get it done kind of mentality. But I can tell you that there are many different outlets to opening up the spiritual intelligence and the heart intelligence of connecting to something bigger than yourself, whatever that is for you, whether you're an atheist that believes in nothing, whether you're somebody that wants proof of God, which sometimes I'm even challenging, because people ask, "Are you a man of God?" And I say, "Well, I am, but I don't know what God is." So if you could explain to me what God is outside of a biblical or what humans think God is, I just know it's a connection to source, something bigger than ourselves. And you can have different connections to whether it's love relationships with family, with friends, with pets, with God, with planet Earth. There are many different ways to open and expand the spiritual heart, the metaphysical properties, if you will, without limiting beliefs and without limiting yourself. You don't have to get caught up in beliefs of how you were raised. If you do, that's great. For me, I had to kind of unlearn everything that I had learned, including my belief systems, because what I was told in a book didn't match up to my own personal soul adventure and experience. But once you've had this personal experience, and some of you know what I'm talking about, the shaking that causes the awakening, you change. You can't go back. It's like being awoke, and once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep, and it changes a lot of your relationships. It changes your pathways. It changes your way of thinking. It changes your beliefs. It can change your relationships, and it's all for the higher good. It's all for the higher self, the transformation, if you will. And that's why he talked about TNT, like a stick of dynamite, trauma and tragedy blowing up, which causes transformations. But once you get there, metaphysically, which is the true nature of reality, the true nature of yourself, you start to move into learning more about who you are, and finding that physical connection to the heart is really about moving into your heart space, what's right for you, not what somebody else is saying, not how somebody expects you should live your life. And love is not what the mind thinks, but what the heart feels. Greg Emmons reminds us that, the mind and the heart always seem to be at battle, if you will. The mind is where the ego lives. The mind, left analytical side, left reason side, left critical thinking, logic, reason is all on the left side. And then the right hemisphere of the brain, remember, we call these our temples. So we know that there's a supercomputer that connects us to something bigger than ourselves. God, universe, consciousness, spirit, whatever that is for you. But we know that the mind makes things more real than what they need to be. And a lot of times the mind is the driver of the vehicle. And it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes they say follow your heart. But, there's that trust but verify kind of thing. So a lot of times when I get something that comes into my orbit, whether it's psychically or a mediumship connection, I'll go to my heart first. I'll connect because, again, I find with, the mind, the body can't go on without the mind. If the mind stops to work, then everything shuts down. but we can keep the body alive. We can keep the heart alive, but the brain might not be there. And so the heart really is the engine that makes it go. Your breath is what fuels the fuel tank of your spiritual journey. And for me, when I have a connection, one of the first things, you'll see me a lot put my hand over my heart, because what I'm doing is it's kind of like tapping. If you tap, something I've learned recently is tapping with my own healing and my counseling. I tap my heart to kind of open up my heart, because I found that it's one of the most powerful energies, chakras, that opens up to the physical. And then I listen. And that's why I'm talking about today, the word heart with the word ear in the middle, is because it's important to listen to that quiet voice, that subtle intuition, that language of your soul, which is your intuition. To listen, because a lot of times if we're talking, we miss what's coming in. So I always remind people, prayer is your intentions and thought going out. What are you doing to listen back? And you can do that through the power of Qigong, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, sitting in silence, sitting in the shower with the water running over you, taking deep breaths, and listening back for your journey. This is where most people miss the mark. Myself included, for many years, I did not meditate. I was not a meditator, wasn't into it, couldn't get my mind to calm down, to settle down. And over the last decade, through a lot of workshops and discipline and mentoring and being mentored, I've learned how to quiet the mind and move into that place of subtleness and a really passive place to where I can listen. And again, when you actually connect the heart to what is unseen, kind of like the wind. If these trees behind me were moving back and forth, we would all agree. It's kind of hard to find people to agree with anything nowadays with so many different opinions. But we would agree, most of us, 99% of us would agree, that if the trees were moving back and forth and swaying, we know that the wind is moving those trees. And this is something that I teach on. And the spiritual world is much like the wind. They move upon us like the wind. We just don't get to see the wind with our physical eye. Just like we don't see the wind here, we see the effects of the wind on elements like the trees, the mountains, blowing. We see that because that's the effects of the wind, but we don't actually see the wind. And when you work with spirituality, when you work with what is unseen, you realize that there's a much bigger world, and that presence of the spiritual world, the spiritual force, the spiritual love, the spiritual awakening, the heart intelligence, it starts to open up and you see the world bigger than what it is. So it's quite fascinating when you just sit and you kind of sway and you kind of feel. I've found that the heart is one of the most powerful organs. It breaks. We've all had our heart broken. It heals, and then it becomes stronger again. Now, there are really people that have died of broken hearts. That's really a medical issue. That's a real medical. I think of Princess Leia and her mom, how they passed within a month of each other. And so people have been known to die of broken hearts. And we've all been there. We've all had the broken heart. We've all had it healed, and we've all gotten stronger from it. So that's what I'm talking about today, because I just found it interesting during my meditation how the word ear stands out. And if you take two ears and you put them together to make one, it actually forms the shape of an interior of a heart. So check it out. Look at it from a sacred geometry standpoint. I've just always found that interesting about why we do what we do. Let's see if I can put a link here for. So again, if you want to join me on the Soul Adventures Weekly here, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, over a cup of coffee, cup of Joe, cup of tea, whatever your choice is. I'm here Monday mornings at 8 a.m. It's a weekly show with inspiration and encouragement for the week ahead, just to kind of give you messages. If you want to get on my YouTube channel, I'll put the link here as soon as I can. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to change it here. The Intuitive Prospector. Comment. Let me see. There we go. I'll go ahead and paste the link here. This is my YouTube channel. So this is the channel where it's about 300 videos now, 5 seasons of Inspired Living Radio, meditations, hikes, dives, scuba dives, interviews I've done. And you can also get to the same YouTube channel through marclainhart.com, or just internet search the Intuitive Prospector. And again, join the over 29,000 followers around the world that join us every Monday for the Metaphysical Mocha Mondays and the Healing Cafe. My way of giving back, no charge for it. My way of connecting with new people and making new friendships and meeting new spiritual prospectors in search of their own spiritual transformations, spiritual healing, and most importantly, your own spiritual gold. So let me know where you're from if you're tuning into the show. If you're new, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm talking about the heart and the word ear that's in the center of the word heart. So if you break the word up, heart, the word ear comes in, and I think it's really important that we listen, because there's an anagram that's always stuck with me. And an anagram is where you have two words, same amount of letters. Letters are in the same name. And the anagram silent and listen, if you switch them, two different meanings. Silence and listening incorporates a lot of the heart connection. And when it comes to the heart connection, it's really about moving into yourself. And this is something I've had to do even in my own journey this last year. 2019 was a very tough year for me, spiritually, mindfully, even health-wise, with hormones and the work I've done with my nervous system. So I kind of had to learn to renew myself in new ways, including relationships, including, sorry, I'm laughing, there's two squirrels outside on my fence fighting. So it's noticing the little things too. It's the little things that trigger the heart, but it's really about knowing thyself. And when you know thyself and you can move into, a place of surrender and a place of acceptance, especially if you found yourself in the last year, if you found yourself challenged by life experiences or life situations, I call them soul adventures. Not every adventure is a fun adventure, but it's still a soul adventure nonetheless. That is the best time to focus in on your awareness of the heart center, to become centered within your heart. Heart intelligence, metaphysically, energetically, and the physical manifestations of your mind to try to get those to connect. And like I said, I've had to really change some of my relationships with some of my friends who I thought were friends, who were not friends. Some family members who I thought were family members who were not really family members, and that's heartbreaking. But when you know thyself and you move into your authentic higher self and you know who you are, the right people who truly know you and love you will surround you and be on with you on that journey with no expectations. I had just talked about on the Intuitive Prospector page I had posted something that's been really relevant. An apology without changed behavior is just manipulation. And there's a lot of that going on, guys. We got a lot of people that manipulate others that don't come from a heart space. Now, there are people that do. There's some amazing people out in this world, but we also find that, with every apple tree, there are a few bad apples in that tree. And, from what we see today, there's a lot of, dog-eat-dog world, backstabbing, gossip, entertainment. That's not something I got into this business for. I didn't get into the spiritual pathways. I came through great trauma and tragedy that changed me, and that's what I teach on. But just remember, if people are, constantly apologizing, but they're not changing their behavior, then that's a form of manipulation. That's a form of gaslighting. You have to pull away from that, even though that's really painful to do. In the end, you're going to be happy that you did it. You're going to find more peace, more joy, more happiness, and be at love with yourself. And that's a big part of the spiritual path, is finding thyself through the heart connection. So again, the word heart can't be spelled without the word ear in the middle of it. And the reason that I believe that the ear is so important to the connection to all this, the mind and the heart and the body, is if you take the two ears, and if I was to pull my ears off and put them together, they actually form a heart, and including the chambers of the heart. It's quite interesting. And so we know that there's a connection from the mind and the ears, which connects to the brain, that is connected to the heart. So I was going to just, that came up in my meditation this morning. It kind of started resonating with me last night. And it's just something, things that make you go, you didn't, maybe you've looked at the word heart all this time and never saw the word ear in the word, heart. I know that I hadn't for a long time. So, there's a quote I was going to give you real quick here. Smile, it is a key that fits the lock of everybody's heart. So let's do that real quick. Let's practice the art of and having an attitude for gratitude. And again, practicing heart intelligence, connection to heart, and again, smile. It is the key to the lock of everybody's heart. And that's Anthony D'Angelo that said that. So put a big smile on your face. Taking a nice deep breath with me. Thanks for joining me here on Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, inspirational messages for the week ahead. And if you just do that with me, just putting a smile on your face and feeling the singing bowl resonate with you as you take a deep breath in, put your hand over your heart. It's a great way of just opening up and calming the mind. And even just that quick 30-second exercise of the singing bowl, taking a breath in, putting your hand over your heart, you can see that it quiets the mind a lot. And you'll realize just if you do that more often and you're disciplined and you practice that through the art of heart intelligence, through the heart, through the intelligence or the practice of metaphysics, through the practice of meditations, you'll understand that your mind goes pretty rapid all the time. And it's great because you'll be like, I'm tired of my mind going all the time. How many of you have your mind go all the time? This is a good way to stop the mind from thinking or thinking too much by just hand over heart. Take a deep breath. And you can even have a positive mantra if you want. I like to say, and so it is, because there are things in the world that I can't control that are outside my control, but what I can control is how I respond to my external stimuli around me. So, again, but I have to listen. I have to move to that place to get into that place of silence and stillness that Rumi talks about all the time. The more silent and still you become, the more you'll actually hear. And there's a lot of truth to that. But we need to listen more and we need to speak less. That's why we have 2 of these and 1 of these. And there's a whole lot of this going on in the world, guys. There's a whole lot of speaking. And I found, when you listen, I honestly, I feel like, I watch some of these media shows and they just overtalk one another. And I think it's really a sincere form of respect, is listening to what another person has to say. Even if you may not agree with it, let them finish, and then they should give you the respect back to listen to your perspective. And we don't have a lot of that in the world, and I think we need more of that. And I think there's an awakening that's taking place with everything that we're seeing in the planet, things that I've seen that haven't happened yet from a precognition standpoint, to the psychic energy that I see in my dreams, things I've written about, things that are coming down the pike. We need more of that because we're just not listening to one another. We're listening to our opinions or ourselves or our egos, and I think we'll get great change through that because of that. I find that listening is also the secret to discover great stories. You can discover great things about people just by listening, and instead of always giving advice or trying to fix it, especially us guys are really good at giving advice and trying to fix things. But the world, I found in doing this journey, this spiritual pathway, this spiritual prospecting, that's how I became the Intuitive Prospector. I find that the world is giving you answers each day if you learn to listen. And you'll learn to listen through the heart. Again, the power of the heart. That's why the word ear is actually built into the heart. So that's your inspirational message for the week ahead. You can learn a lot by listening and practicing patience and practicing good words. Ernest Hemingway, if you follow Ernest Hemingway like I do, when people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen, and that's so very, very true, unfortunately, in this day and age. And one of the things that my mentors have worked with me over the years is, do not listen with the intent to reply, but with the intent to understand, because sometimes people are just saying words. And if you go with that deeper understanding to understand versus the reply to what they're saying, you see a bigger picture. Things unfold for you in a much interesting way. So I hope that helps today. I hope that resonates with at least one of you out there. That's the whole point of the show. If I resonate or I connect to one person in the world, that's the point of it. This isn't a show about popularity, reaching the masses. This is about changing lives one person at a time. And it had to start with me. And I had to come into my own heart intelligence through the power of letting go, through the power of healing, through the power of not thinking too much and feeling more. And again, there are many different ways to open up the heart, whether it's nature, whether it's art, music. For me, it's movies. Movies can really open me up. Family, friends, animals, qigong, prayer, meditation, tai chi, yoga. The list goes on and on, guys. Gardening, walking, singing. These are all great ways to open up the heart. And I hope that this week that you'll practice doing that more. Listen more, talk less. And with that, I want to give you your totem animal spirit for the week, and we'll get ready for the Healing Cafe. What time is it? Yeah, we got 1 minute. So let me get you your totem animal spirit for the week. Things to pay attention to. I find that nature's our greatest teacher and our greatest connector and our greatest healer. So this week I picked the parrot. So if the parrot shows up, whether it's in a physical parrot or a parrot in a song or a movie or you see it in a magazine, be discerning about when to speak and when to stay silent. So again, it's a lot of what I'm talking about. speak less, listen more, use your heart to connect, heart intelligence, and stay clear of any kind of gossip. Gossip is, I've been, even just about a month and a half ago, I was caught up in some gossip that is not who I am or what I'm about, and I had to shut it down and say that's not going to happen, because that's just not, gossip is a bad thing. It'd be a good time to study the power and effects of light and color. So work with color, work with light if you're interested in doing that. And be alert to any new ideas that pop into your head, as these may give you some ideas for new growth or new direction for yourself. So that's the totem animal spirit of the parrot. So pay attention to the parrot. The crystal I picked this week was the bloodstone. Now the bloodstone is something I carry around. I have blue agate, and this little stone right here is actually bloodstone. So you can kind of see it here. That's the bloodstone. I wear this over my heart. Speaking of the heart connection, I found that the bloodstone, which is readily available, it's not a very expensive stone at all, but its name suggests it's an excellent blood cleanser, and it's also powerful healer. So I've been, like I said, the last 6 months I've been going through a lot of healing, a lot of revealing, a lot of uncovering things that have been dormant for me for many, many years, and dealing with that in a spiritual way, in a higher thinking way, an authentic way has been really, really tough for me. So I wear the bloodstone a lot to help move that healing through my heart. It's believed to have mystical and magical properties. It's also said to control the weather, and it also confers the ability to banish evil and negativity and direct spiritual energies. In ancient times, the bloodstone was said to be an audible oracle, giving off sounds as a means of guidance. I haven't had that with this bloodstone yet. I have had different connections to different stones where I have heard high-pitched vibrations in my right ear, which I found interesting. But I haven't had that with my bloodstone, maybe because I'm always wearing it. So maybe it's just that vibration is resonating with my heart. But bloodstone is your crystal for the week. Check it out. Give it a go. See if it works for you. It may not. I wasn't always a crystal guy myself until I had a friend do a meditation with a crystal, and it was one of the most powerful meditations I ever had. So it's like an amplifier, you're the guitar plugging yourself into an amplifier to get that bigger impact or connection, if you will. The numerology this week is the 11 energy, 1-1. So it's a spiritual teacher energy, but the individuality card is coming up for you this week. So really work this week to move into an individual type of format for your journey. Kind of pull away from people. It's okay to fast from people, including relationships. Sometimes you have to have that individuality so you can connect to the heart, have that heart intelligence, and also have the ability to listen without a lot of distractions. There is that famous saying, home is where the heart is, and that's really true. So I hope that you found that comforting today or insightful for your journey. Again, if you want to work with me, you can find me at marclainhart.com, internet search the Intuitive Prospector. You can find me through Ariel Spiritual Community, Best American Psychics, Best Psychic Directory, FamousPsychicMediums.com. You can find me at Insight Timer. But just go to marclainhart.com. That's a one-stop shop for all the links and my classes I teach, my YouTube channel, my podcast over on Om Times Inspired Living Radio. And again, if you want to get tickets, there's still a few seats left for this Saturday's event. We have about 30 people with myself and Penny Harewood from England. She's here. I picked her up the other day. We'll be doing a 4-day workshop, and we'll also be doing a live podcast here on Wednesday here in the studio talking about how to master your mediumship. So if mediumship and connecting to the etheric world, the spiritual world, the unseen world is something that you're interested in, you'll want to check out that podcast because it's going to be fun. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. Until our next soul adventure together, please be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, as you prospect in life, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. I'll see you next week for another Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. Take care, everybody. Namaste.